Christ my Lord, the giver of light and wisdom, who opened the eyes of the blind man and transformed the fishermen into wise heralds and teachers of the gospel through the coming of the Holy Spirit, shine also in my mind the light of the grace of the Holy Spirit. Grant me discernment, understanding, and wisdom in learning. Enable me to complete my assignments and to abound in every good work, for to you I give honor and glory. Amen. Most blessed Lord, send the grace of your Holy Spirit on me to strengthen me, that I may learn well the subject I am about to study, and by it become a better person, for your glory, the comfort of my family, and the benefit of your church and our nation. Amen. All right. Our questions, actually we're going to turn to page 21. Our questions are on page 20. But first I will give you back your summas. I'd really like to wait till we're all here. I forget Kinsley Riley. I get. Yeah, I think I only had good things to say about all of your summas. I just took this out because you could just say similarly, right? And then it's concise. That way it's concise. Once you get to be a good writer, you go for being concise, not using words that we don't need to use. Elliot, sorry.
Nice grab.
Liam. Oh, well done, well done. All right, does anybody have any sort of question whatsoever? We're going to go over, after Kinsley gets here, we're going to go over what goes in the introduction and conclusion. You all have done this many times, but A, it's never a bad thing to review. B, Kinsley might not have done one of these, so I want to remind us. While we wait for her, I'll just kind of go over my outline on page 21. Probably all of you, maybe not Miriam, did the junior high Greece and Rome with me. Did you do that? Oh, excellent. Then this will be new for you. I wanted to talk a little bit, put some Greek history in here to lead us up to the place when we start reading our first big history book. And I mentioned these guys last week. I had a sarcophagus from here. Crete. Here is Greece. Italy, here, Greece. This is Crete. Crete is a very large island. Cyprus and Crete are really big islands in the Mediterranean. And starting, I'll put this in perspective, about the time that Abraham was coming from Ur and going to the Promised Land, about that time, there were people settled in Crete, and all we knew about them was, until about 150 years ago, was just hearsay and stories. Apparently there were these people, and they referred to them as the Minoans because King Minos was their king, but we don't know if King Minos was a real guy. And so, for example, in your outline on page 21, here's a quote from a Greek historian. For Minos was the most ancient of all that by report we know to have built a navy. And he made himself master of the now Grecian sea, and both commanded the isles called the Cyclades. The Cyclades are all these little islands. You see all the little dots? There's a lot of them. And also was the first that sent colonies into most of the same, expelling thence the Carians and constituting his own sons therefore governors, and also freed the seas of pirates as much as he could, for the better coming in is as likely of his own revenue. The story of Europa, if you remember that story, if you know that story, Europa was this girl who lived in Phoenicia here, and she was just playing around on the shore one day, and this white bull showed up. And for whatever reason, as they do in these stories, she gets in her head that she should ride it. That's the right look right there. This is a bad move. It seems tame, And so she gets on it, and then it starts swimming out to sea with her. And then she is informed that this is actually Zeus. It's not a bull, it's Zeus. And Europa is yet another one of these girls that Zeus has taken a liking to. And he swims away with her, and they swim all the way to Crete, which just seems like a long swim. But he is Zeus. Maybe he goes faster than the normal swimming bull. I don't know. And Europa has a child, and it is Minos. And Minos' brother or son, Rhadamanthus. There were these mythological personages, right? But that's all we know. Europa, the bull carries her away, carries her to Crete, it's found in Crete. Until in the 19th century, an archaeologist named Arthur Evans started digging up sites in Crete. And the capital was Knossos. Oh, by the way, Crete is also the place where the Minotaur was, right? Half man, half bull. Do you remember this story, Henley? Do you know this story? Oh, you got to know this story. So, once upon a time, the king of Crete was ticked off with Athens because his son got killed over there. And he said, hey, you Athenians, every year you got to send me 7 boys and 7 girls, and I'm going to feed them to a monster. Because I got this monster, and he's half bull, half man. And we call him the Minotaur. And we enclose him in a labyrinth, in a maze-like place so he can't get out. Also, so that when we shut in the boys and girls for his food, they can't get out either. Because they get lost, even worse than a corn maze. Until Theseus, the prince of Athens, says, send me. And he goes, and he kills the Minotaur, and he rescues everybody, and everybody's happy, except his dad, who kills himself at the end. That's the very fast version. But what is similar to both these stories? The Zeus swimming away with Europa story and the creature in the labyrinth story. What do they have in common? Bulls. What's up with the bulls? So, Arthur Evans starts digging around in Knossos, and he finds a fresco of people jumping around on a bull. I'm going to pass this around. This is very famous. So there's a person, it looks all blotchy because they've repaired it. Okay. It's got a person in front, and then there's a person upside down on the bull's back, and then a person back here. Sort of like the same person. If the person had jumped onto the back of a running bull and then jumped off the back, which don't do that.
Sounds fun.
So they refer to this as the bull leaping fresco because it appears to show somebody leaping over a bull. Now, if all you knew about a place was mythological weirdo stories about bulls, and then suddenly you dug up a picture of people jumping around on bulls, you might think, oh my goodness, maybe the stories have something true about them. Not that we think there was a half man, half bull. But somehow, the idea of it being bull sports, something like this, was connected with Crete. They also found beautiful buildings with the walls all painted frescoes. So when the plaster's wet, you paint the wet plaster, and it makes this sort of watercolor effect. And it's very durable because it stays until the plaster flakes off. And this is they've moved it. This was in a museum, but they moved the walls and reset them up in the museum. And this was from that time period. We're talking about Crete. Remind me, and I'll look at your outline in just a minute. And we're looking at an outline that's on page 21, Kinsley. I forgot to get the picture out. They dug up a palace. He dug up a palace that was enormous, and the floor plan looks like a maze. And I thought, wait a minute, what about that story about the labyrinth? And here we dug up a maze-like structure. So again, people started thinking maybe there's some truth in these stories. They have found Minoan pottery all the way in Egypt. They were shipping things back and forth to Egypt. So remember what this historian said, that this mythical, or not, King Minos cleared the Sea of Pirates for trading purposes so he could make money. And they were sending products away to Egypt. Then, about 1450 BC, this civilization just started disappearing. Some of the cities are burned down. Some of them just got smaller and smaller until there wasn't anybody living there anymore. And nobody is sure why. Some people think that it's because people living on the mainland, those people would be Agamemnon and Menelaus, and that group of people attacked and took over. Maybe. But there is a little island, I think it's this one right here. These aren't very to scale. It's called Santorini today, but it was called Thera. And originally, looked something like this, and now it looks like this. There's a little in there. It's not a piece of fruit. It does not have a stem. Because a volcano erupted and blew the whole middle of the island out. About 1450 BC. About the time that the Minoan civilization disappeared. And although some people say, I don't think it had anything to do with it, I can't believe that it's a coincidence, that a massive volcano erupted just to the northeast, probably spewing cloud and ash and everything towards Crete. And then over the following years, they got weaker, they started disappearing, because when clouds hide the sun, what happens next?
Plants die.
The plants die. You don't have any food. You start getting hungry. You start leaving to find a place where you can find food. You get unwell. And if somebody did want to attack you, you would be sitting ducks. Maybe it's a little bit of both. These are mystery people. They had a language. We can't read it. We still can't read it. It's called Linear A, but it's not Greek. It doesn't use Greek letters. That's all we know. These are the predecessors of Menelaus and Agamemnon and all of that, Odysseus. We'll talk next week about their civilization. They were the next in line. Their language, we can read, and it's a form of Greek, an early form of Greek. Any questions or comments or something you remember from talking about this when you were younger? So their date, you don't have to write this down, 2200 to about 1450 BC. That's really a long time ago. That's a long time ago. If the Trojan War, something happened. I was going to say if the Trojan War happened. We found a place and it's Troy and it got burned down. We're 1400 to 1200 BC, somewhere in there. So this is before the war. So this is Abraham, and this is Moses and the Exodus. It's about the time, really, really old. And basically what I've told you is about all we know. They've excavated some other places besides the Palace at Knossos, but that's it. If you can't read people's writing, you really don't find out much about them. It really hinders us. So I think one of you should make it your life's ambition to decipher Linear A. I'll be so proud. And then when you get your book published, you have to thank me. You have to dedicate it to me. Kinsley, can I just briefly, I did this for everyone else, so I'm not targeting you. Let me look at your outline before we move on. Oh, I'll take this. Thank you. All right. Oh, that's a very good point. Agamemnon has plenty of stuff already. Hadn't occurred to me, but this is a very good point. Yes? Fabulous. You also get a fabulous. Okay. I actually would like to start with that. I'd like to start with our paper. And then we can just ramble about the Odyssey until we run out of time. If you guys could turn to the back of your reading guide again, where we were last week. Let's see which page. Let's look at the page 115. I have 2 pages that are called arrangement. So you already have the main part of your paper. You've done it. You've got an outline. You don't have to think of what to say. Basically, just give me the main reason and then write some sentences giving your support. But what we need to add to it is an introduction and a conclusion. And then you have a lovely 5-paragraph persuasive essay. All right. So let's just review some of the things that go into a good introduction. First of all, I've taught you guys before attention getter. These are written, you know, draw your reader in is how I phrased it on page 115. How do we do that? There's some ideas listed there. What are some attention getters that we've used in the past? Or you can just read, do this by. Asking a question, good. Challenge your reader to do or imagine something.
Give a quote.
Yes.
Story.
A short story, okay. This is not, you don't have to do this every single time. I'm not going to say your paper's wrong because you didn't start with a question. It's an art. You kind of decide, would that sound good here or would it not? You could start by saying, how would you feel if someone came and took away one of your treasured possessions? Right? And that kind of engages the reader. They think, oh, that'd really stink. I'd be really mad about that. Or imagine you're in charge and you have to make sure everyone continues to respect you. Would you abuse that power? Or would you be beneficent to your underlings, to your minions? I don't know. Something like that. That would work. That would work in this kind of paper. What else do we need to include? We really, really need to include what I call the backstory. On page 115, it's not there. Oh, inform the reader. Inform the reader. That's what I mean by inform the reader. In other words, what does your reader have to know to make sense of your paper? Remember, you're arguing that Agamemnon should or should not have taken Briseis from Achilles. What does your reader need to know?
What the Trojan War is.
Okay, okay. Okay, so we need to know about the Trojan War. We need to know who Briseis, Agamemnon, and Achilles are. What were you going to say, Miriam? Okay. Do we need to know the story about the night raid and the killing of, you know, the King Rhesus's men stealing the horses? Is that important for your paper? No. Do we need to know about dragging Hector around? Maybe it'll come up, but we don't need to. Where do we get the information? Where are we getting our information about this Trojan War from? The Iliad. So perhaps we should mention that there is an epic poem called the Iliad. And by the way, since it's an epic poem, we underline or italicize. Shorter poems we quote, but when it's book length, you can underline it like a book. I feel like if you told me a little bit about that, That would suffice. So in your paper, I'm going to look for you to tell me in the epic poem, the Iliad, the Greeks are attacking Troy. Maybe you could tell because Paris ran off with Helen. And Agamemnon gets upset and decides to take Briseis away from Achilles. Something like that. Okay? You also need to state the question and your opinion. In other words, what is the question? Tell me, what is the question that we're exploring? What is the question your whole paper is about? Should Agamemnon have taken Briseis? That's the question. And I want to see somewhere in your introduction, yes, he should, or no, he shouldn't. Does that make sense? Those don't have to be two separate sentences. Agamemnon was insane to take Briseis away from Achilles. That'd be a no. Agamemnon was well within his rights to take Briseis. That'd be a yes. And now I know two things. I know what question you're addressing, and I know what your position is on it. To be very, very neat, the last thing you could put is you could state your three main reasons. Agamemnon was insane to take Briseis because boom, and because boom. Does that make sense to everybody? Oh dear. I don't know what to do with this. You're supposed to run it down your back, I guess. But you know, I'll sit back in the chair and I'll turn it off. And then I won't know because I can't see it. So it has to be in front. Okay, conclusion. Everybody on page 115, if you look down to the per oratio, conclusion. By the way, no need to do all of these. I will tell you the ones that are most important to me. Restate, the last one is most important to me. Restate your 3 points. And so, it should be obvious to everyone that Agamemnon was an utter idiot for taking Briseis because boom, boom, and boom. I would also like you to choose which is the most significant or important of your 3, and why. You might think the biggest reason is because it drove Achilles out of the fighting, which led to mass slaughter. By the way, if you flip back, I need to condense these 2 pages. If you flip back to page 113, I like that. Let's look at that. Restate your position, summarize your 3 proofs, and what's most significant, and then the ever popular who cares. Why would we even care? And the answer is not. I care because Mrs. Ferguson made me write this paper. It's true, but maybe you don't care, even if Mrs. Ferguson made you write this paper. But what can we learn from all of this? About controlling our feelings, about thinking before you act, thinking about the consequences before you act. I feel like we could get something out of this. So this is your first paragraph, this is your last paragraph, and the middle ones are simply what you have in your outline. The first reason Agamemnon should not have taken Briseis is blah. And then give your support. Are there any questions about this at all? Make total sense? Most of you have done these with me. One other thing, and I'm sorry, I'm going to give this to you because I already gave it on Tuesday, but I'm going to think of some better ones, honestly, because you're going to get tired of the same elements. We're going to put parallelism in, all right? Parallelism 1. You could do parallelism 2 also if you want. And just to remind you what parallelism is, it's simple. Well, would one of you like to remind me what parallelism is? Henley, go for it.
3 words that start with the same word. Or letter.
No, that's alliteration. Close. I like the 3 words part.
Does it sound the same?
No.
Same train of thought. Wait, no.
Yeah, we're getting, yeah. Somebody want to jump in? Yeah. Elliot, you want to help?
Isn't it like?
Oh, I'm glad we're doing this because we've forgotten.
3 verbs.
It's
Or-
three words of the same sort of word, the same part of speech, we would say. For example, 3 adjectives. Agamemnon was idiotic, foolish, and audacious. I don't know. And then we'd have 3 adjectives. It just sounds really, really good when you use sets of 3. Once you're aware that writers do this, you start spotting them everywhere. We could have 3 verbs. Agamemnon yelled, screamed, and fought when they told him to give his war prize back. Then we have 3 verbs. We could have 3 nouns. Agamemnon already had women, gold, and silver. Because somebody had the, I think it was Kinsley had the, Agamemnon already had a bunch of stuff. You could list 3 things that he has. This would be parallelism. 3 adverbs. Achilles sat by the ships, angrily, sadly, and sullenly. And then we have 3 adverbs. That's parallelism 1. Maybe I don't need to go to new ones. Maybe we need to review this one. All right. So somewhere in your paper, I'd like you to do one of these. And I would like you to mark it by, oh, here, I'm grabbing another Elliott paper. Do you see it says P2 right here in the margin? That's parallelism 2. Just write it. Just write it in the margin. You don't underline it. Don't highlight it. Don't bold it. Don't draw arrows to it. Just put it in the margin by the line where it is, and I will find it. And then when we have a bunch of them in your paper, it makes it really easy for me to just, oh, here's the P1, and here's the P2. So do it like that. Do you have any questions? Yes,
Is that
sir.
all we're putting in?
Yes, because we're starting over again. It's a new year, so it's a reset. We're rebooting the system. And now we start over again. But I will try to throw in some things. I already planned them out, but I'll try to make sure we get some things that those of you who have been with me a while aren't doing this. All right, let us turn back to our Odyssey questions. Because I am at home and I can, I'm going to warm up my tea that is now cold. And I will talk to you from the other room about the poem by Sappho. Does everybody see that on page 21? I'm not going to read this to you. Oh, did we read the Antilochus poems from last week? Oh, we have to read that. Turn back to that first. Those we are going to read. I do not want you to get the idea that all Greek poetry is, and he jabbed him through the brain with the spear and his eyeballs fell out. There's a lot of that. But there are other types of poetry. And Antilochus was a bit of a breath of fresh air because Antilochus talked a lot about his feelings. Would it be accurate to say, oh, I'm sitting over here, but I've got a camera on. Would it be, oh, shoot. I went out of, okay, we're just going to hope I didn't go out of range. And we're just going to hope that I'm still recording. It's all right. Do you tend to think of poetry as revealing emotions? in general? Emotion? No. What do you think of when you think of poetry? Because we read a lot of
All
poetry.
boring words.
A lot of boring words? Oh, I'm sorry, Henley. But about what?
It can be about anything.
Anything.
Oh, okay, well, I'm going to go with Miriam's opinion. Antilochus gave us, on page 19, the flip side of those warriors raging in the Iliad, all right? Because do you think that sometimes people get scared in war? Do you think back then sometimes people got scared in war? Or were they special and different back then and they never got scared? No, they got scared. So I apologize for the strong language in the first one, but this is the translation and it comes across well. He says, I don't give a damn if some Thracian ape strut proud of that first-rate shield the bushes got. Leaving it was hell, but in a tricky spot I kept my hide intact. Good shields can be bought. Okay. Some Thracian ape, some Thracian soldier has taken what out of the bushes?
A shield.
A shield. Whose shield?
We don't.
We don't know, but we kind of know. The poet, the speaker, because he says leaving it was hell. It was tough to leave that shield in the bushes. So if it's so tough, why did he leave it in the bushes?
Because he's gonna get shot or whatever was going on, or stabbed or something.
Yeah, and so he leaves in the bushes, then what is he going to do next? Do you think? Why would he leave his shield in the bushes? Don't you need your shield?
So they thought he was there.
Oh, that's a very good supposition. Does anybody, possibly, does anybody have another supposition? Because he's going to run away. And shields are big and heavy. And when you want to run away from the weapons, you want to travel light. This guy dumped his shield in bushes. And his attitude is, so what? Good shields can be bought. I can always buy another one. Now, some of you might remember from junior high, the code, the Spartan code, mothers used to say, come back with your shield or on it. In other words, you come back with your weapons. Don't you throw them away and run, or I want them to carry your dead body back on your shield. Those are only two ways I want you coming back. Don't disgrace us by running. But here's Archilochus. Go. I'm buy another one. It's very different. It doesn't. Can you picture somebody in the Iliad saying, I'm just going to throw down my weapons now and run? Hector does run. If Achilles comes after you, you run. That's probably the best idea. Okay, I like the next one. Let him go ahead. Ares is a Democrat. There are no privileged people on a battlefield. What do you think that means, Ares is a Democrat? Who is Ares, first of all?
God of War.
Okay, the god of war. War in general, then. And then our next question is, what does it mean to be a Democrat? What is democracy? What's true of democracy?
Everything's equal.
Everything and everyone is equal. Everybody gets a vote. Everybody's equal before the law. There's no noblemen who are special and they get extra votes or something like that. So what do you think it means that Ares is a Democrat?
Treats everybody the same.
There are no privileged people on a battlefield. In other words, so Liam is a nobleman.
Yes.
And Elliot, sorry, you're not. But when the javelins and arrows are flying around, are they equally in danger? Oh, you betcha.
You got my money in my pocket to protect me.
The arrows will just bounce right off. Again, Sarpedon dies, Hector dies, Achilles is going to die. Being the king being important didn't save them. And along with the rank and file, they die. This is the thing Homer doesn't point out, but Archilochus does. All right. Hot tears cannot drive misery away, nor banquets and dancing make it worse. All right, so I like Miriam's little smile. Miriam, expound, not to put you on the spot, but what's he kind of insinuating? What's he saying?
That they might as well do what they want.
You might as well party. Because you know what? Crying ain't going to make it better. And a party is going to make it worse. I know. See, that got a smile out of him. Like, yes. Again, this is just kind of a different code of honor or conduct, if you will. All right, this one's my favorite one. The fox knows many tricks. The hedgehog only one. One good one. What is the hedgehog's trick?
Curl up in a ball.
Curl up in a ball because you're all spiky and they can't get at any of your soft parts. Does the hedgehog need another trick? No, because this one works for all predators. It works all the time. Foxes, on the other hand, what are foxes notorious for in stories? What is the fox always
Being
like?
tricky.
Sneaky, tricky. They've got all these tricks up their sleeve. They're wily. Foxes have many tricks. The hedgehog only has one. That's a good one. You only need one. All right. This last one's a little more serious. The young with blue javelins for the games. Young leaves and coronets over young ears have yet to see battle spears thick as chaff in the air. The young in the games, they're playing war games, right? They're going through their paces for their parents' entertainment. Oh, we're fighting. We've got javelins, and we're crowned with wreaths, and isn't this awesome? But what do they not understand yet?
War is not a good thing.
War is really, really horrible. They don't know. They've never seen battle spears thick as chaff. What is chaff? This is a very good time of year to talk about this. What is chaff? Thick as chaff in the air. Picture, you're driving down the road, picture the combine.
Like the stuff left over.
The stuff left over and the stuff flying around. Have you ever, what's it look like right behind a combine? The combine's just not it. I mean, right behind the combine. Dust and stuff's flying everywhere. I walk on this road, and when they're harvesting these fields, if the combine, I kind of wait if it's up next to the road or cover my mouth or something because it's going to be nasty. You just can't breathe because it's spitting dust and little bits of corn stem everywhere. That's chaff. Thick as chaff in the air. That's what the battle spears are like in a battle. Or arrows. It's full of them. Archilochus tells us the flip side of battle. Homer, we will win, we will give them glory or take it for ourselves. And, he does give us the gory details. But it's all glorious for someone. But it's also not glorious for someone. Okay. Before we detoured into Archilochus, I was mentioning Sappho. I'm not going to read her poems. Sappho was one of the most famous poets of the ancient world. As you can see, that it's a hymn to Aphrodite. Sappho's main subject matter was love. She's a woman. She's not going to write poetry about the battle and fighting. She's going to write poetry about love. And it's one of the earliest poets we know of it's very introspective. It's very much about her heart and her mind. We don't have very much of her poetry. We just have little bits, little fragments, or bits are quoted by someone else, and so we know that bit. But throughout ancient times, she was revered as one of the greatest poets ever. But unfortunately, we don't have very good samples to really know. So I put her hymn to Aphrodite. You may read that if you wish from the face Henley made when I said she writes about love. I'm thinking Henley is going to choose not to. This is also okay. Now I'm going to give you another poetry sample. It's not all Homer in ancient Greece. All right, but today, for the rest of today, it is all Homer. Was this easier than the Iliad? The first 6 books, I told you it would be. The first 7 lines of the Iliad told us what the story was about. Rage! Sing, O goddess, the rage of Peleus' son Achilles. Okay, we know what we're talking about. What do the first 10 lines of the Odyssey tell us the subject is? What? Yeah, Miriam. Sing of the man. The topic of the Iliad was rage. Sing to me of the man, Muse. Now, I would like to read all the way up to about line 25, and I want you to notice something. Notice how long it takes to hear who this man is. Just listen. Say, do we know who the man is yet? Do we know? Sing to me of the man, Muse. The man of twists and turns, driven time and again off his course. Once he had plundered the hallowed heights of Troy. Many cities of men he saw and learned their minds. Many pains he suffered, heart-sick on the open sea, fighting to save his life and bring his comrades home. But he could not save them from disaster, hard as he strove. The recklessness of their own ways destroyed them all. The blind fools. They devoured the cattle of the sun, and the sun god blotted out the day of their return. Watch out on his story, Muse, daughter of Zeus. Start from where you will. Sing for our time, too. By now, all the survivors, all who avoided headlong death, were safe at home, escaped the wars and waves. But one man alone. His heart set on his wife and his return. Calypso, the bewitching nymph, the lustrous goddess, held him back, deep in her arching caverns, craving him for a husband. But then, when the wheeling seasons brought the year around, that year spun out by the gods when he should reach his home, Ithaca. Okay, it's our first clue of who it might be if you know who the king of Ithaca is. We still haven't heard his name. Though not even there would he be free of trials, even among his loved ones. Then every god took pity, all except Poseidon. He raged on, seething against the great Odysseus, till he reached his native land. We have to wait 25 lines to find out who the man is. Now, we hear that a nymph named Calypso is holding him back, it says. It doesn't say holding him captive, but if he had gotten away to leave, it's about the same thing. Calypso was a known lesser goddess, but you might want to know something. Kaluptine is a Greek verb that means to hide. Apocalypse. The apocalypse. Apocalypse means unveiling. It's not hidden. Apo. Akaluptine. It was revealed to John, in other words. That's what makes it the apocalypse. It was unveiled to him. But Kaluptine means to hide. Calypso's hiding him away because she wants him. What did Homer just do with Odysseus' name? He hid it away. 25 lines. He didn't tell us who it was. Just like Odysseus himself, who's hidden away. I think that's very cool. However, it takes us a while to meet Odysseus in these first few chapters. Before we talk about the main character in the first 4 books anyway, I need to point out a story that gets mentioned over and over and over again. And I actually, guys, drum roll, I color-coded my flags. I know. I probably won't do it next week, but give me... Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. The gods, we've just informed that the gods decide that Odysseus should go home, all except Poseidon, who's still ticked off. We will find out the reason for that in a little bit. But all the rest of the gods, Poseidon is off with his Ethiopian friends having a feast. They do that. And while he's gone, the rest of them take the opportunity of his absence to say, you know, we really should send Odysseus home. He's been waiting a long time. And we hear this. It says, recalling... Okay, let me start before that. The other gods, at home in Olympian Zeus's halls, met for full assembly there. And among them now the father of men and gods was first to speak. Sorely troubled, remembering handsome Aegisthus, the man Agamemnon's son, renowned Orestes, killed. Recalling Aegisthus, Zeus harangued the immortal powers. Ah, how shameless, the way these mortals blame the gods. From us alone, they say, come all their miseries. Yes, but they themselves, with their own reckless ways, compound their pains beyond proper share. Look at Aegisthus now. Above and beyond his share, he stole Atrides' wife. He murdered the warlord coming home from Troy, though he knew it meant his total ruin. Far in advance, we told him so ourselves, dispatching the guide, the giant killer Hermes. Don't murder the man, he said. Don't court his wife. Beware, revenge will come from Orestes, Agamemnon's son, the day he comes of age and longs for his native land. So Hermes warned, with all the goodwill in the world. But would Aegisthus' hardened heart give way? Now he pays the price, all at a single stroke. So this random story about some guy named Aegisthus murdering a warlord. All right. Actually, let me tell you the story first, and then I will show you how many times this gets mentioned. Is that there? So, some of you may remember, I don't know how you could forget this, honestly. Once upon a time, there were two brothers, Atreus and Thyestes. Can you see, Liam? And Thyestes had some kids. Kid 1, kid 2, kid 3. Okay. And then Aegisthus, this guy we keep talking about. Atreus had Agamemnon and Menelaus. Right? So, Thyestes stole Atreus' wife. So Atreus was really ticked off, and so he took several of the children, in fact all of them except Aegisthus, and he cooked them, and he fed them to their dad, because that's a thing that we do in Greece. And then when he found out, obviously he was upset. This was a bad, bad thing. Their grandpa, great-grandpa, had also cooked his own son and fed him to the gods. This was Tantalus and Pelops. This family kicks their children. This was already bad news. But this was really bad news. And so what we call the curse of Atreus fell on this house for cooking, not kicking. Don't even kick them, but you should never cook them. Cooking his nephews. Okay, so he has kids. So what do we call the children of brothers? Cousins. Okay, so Agamemnon and Menelaus are just, this is cousins. Got it? So Agamemnon is married to Clytemnestra. As we know, Menelaus is married to Helen. And by the way, they're sisters. Just FYI. All right. So they go to war. Helen runs off to Paris. They go to war to get Helen back. Aegisthus does not go to war. Why? Unclear. But he moves into the palace to kind of keep an eye on things. And it isn't very long before he takes up with Clytemnestra, his cousin's wife. So they have a little thing going on, a little fling. Now, to compound matters, to make it even worse, when these guys head to the coast to sail to Troy, the wind is not blowing in the right direction. It's a long way to row. It's hard to row against a wind. And you had to wait for the right wind direction in the ancient world. Really tack against the wind. So they're waiting, and they consult a prophet, and the prophet says, well, the problem is you have to make a sacrifice to Artemis. You have to sacrifice your daughter. Agamemnon and Clytemnestra have a daughter, Iphigenia. Sacrifice Iphigenia, and then you'll get the wind you want. So Agamemnon sends home and he tells Clytemnestra, oh, could you send Iphigenia over here? Because we're gonna let her marry Achilles. So mom says, oh, sure, that sounds lovely. And so she sends Iphigenia and they sacrifice her. Now, there are various versions of this. In some versions, a deer gets substituted at the last minute. But for our purposes, they sacrifice Iphigenia. That's all we need to think about. So she's at home for 10 years, hanging out with Aegisthus, having a little love nest, and brooding on the fact that her husband killed their daughter. And by the time Agamemnon comes home, she's really ticked off. So she and Aegisthus get a plot to murder Agamemnon as soon as he comes home, which they do. We are going to read a whole series of plays about this right around Christmas time. Isn't it very festive? I'm sorry that all of these terrible things always. Last year was Frankenstein. Why do all of these things happen at Christmas? So, Iphigenia has siblings, and one of them is named Orestes, and that's the one that was being talked about here. It's her brother. He was away when mom and her boyfriend married his mom and her boyfriend murdered his dad. But eventually he came back and he murdered his mom. Because Apollo said, you need to avenge your father's death. So he murders Clytemnestra and Aegisthus. That's what's being talked about. And Zeus is talking about it as if it's a good thing. Because he stood up for his dad and his family. And I realize this is all terrifying and morbid. But, so let's look again at what, I'm not going to read the whole thing again, but see how Zeus phrased it. He's saying, we warned Aegisthus, and he didn't listen, but mortals always blame us. Oh, one of these bad things sent to me by the gods. We warned you. Okay, now, all of my pink tabs are references to this. So, when you might remember that Athena comes and visits Telemachus, Odysseus' son, but she doesn't look like Athena. She looks like a guy. Here's what she says. You must not cling to your boyhood any longer. It's time you were a man. Haven't you heard what glory Prince Orestes won throughout the world when he killed that cunning, murderous Aegisthus who'd killed his famous father? Right, another reference. This is Nestor, when he visits Nestor and Pylos. While Aegisthus hatched his vicious work at home, 7 years he lorded it over Mycenae, rich in gold. Once he'd killed Agamemnon. He ground the people down. But the 8th year ushered in his ruin. Prince Orestes, home from Athens. Yes, he cut him down, that cunning, murderous Aegisthus, who'd killed his famous father. Right? Same words. Telemachus asks the question of Nestor, and he says, tell me the story of how Agamemnon met his death. What fatal trap did he set that treacherous Aegisthus to bring down a man stronger than himself? All right. So we keep hearing about this story over and over again. Keep that in mind, but I want to just throw a question out there. It's not one of the questions on your sheet. Why, two questions. Why do you think we have 4 whole books at the beginning of this poem, not about Odysseus, but about his son Telemachus? And second of all, why does Telemachus need to leave home? Why does he need to go on his little trip? And what does it do for him? The floor is open. Keeping in mind this story about Orestes. What did Orestes do? This is just a plot question. What did Orestes do? Yes. And I said it before I told the whole story. I said he did this. Orestes stepped up and did what?
Killed his own dad, or killed his mom.
And why would he do that? Because he's a bad person?
Because they killed his dad.
Okay. So he was avenging his father. Do you think it takes some guts to step up and do something like that? We're going to assume that it was a good thing. All right? I realize that it sounds like a terrible thing, but that standing up and avenging your father is a good thing. We'll discuss the moral problems with that when we read the plays. All right? Takes some guts. Does anybody know, does anybody remember, not from the Iliad or the Odyssey, but from just previous knowledge, how old was Telemachus when Odysseus left? He was a baby. He doesn't remember his dad. We know this because of the story that Odysseus didn't really want to go to the war, and so he pretended to be insane. And he was plowing the beach and sowing it with salt. And to test him, they said, "Oh, I know how to prove this." And they laid baby Telemachus in the way of the plow blade. And of course, he went around him. He's not going to kill his own son. And they said, "You're not crazy." Yeah, no, I'm not crazy. Telemachus was a baby, but Dad's been gone 20 years. Let's take a look at what Telemachus is like. All right, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm probably just going to blow up random questions here because of the way I'm doing this. So, what was decided at the Council of the Gods? Odysseus is going to go home. I already said this. What goddess is his helper? Athena. Okay. All right. We'll stop there. Let me read a couple of descriptions of Telemachus. Telemachus sees a stranger. It's actually Athena. So, come in, stranger. You should have some food and put your feet up and relax. By the way, what's going on in Telemachus' house currently?
Bunch of people going after his mom.
Bunch of people are going after his mom. The suitors. Bunch of people want to marry Penelope because obviously Odysseus is dead. I'm sorry, he's been gone 20 years, lady. It's time for you to move on. And you're still good looking. Also, you got a bunch of stuff. And your former husband was the king. So we all would kind of like to marry you. So you just need to pick somebody. You just need to pick somebody. And until you do, what do the suitors plan to do?
Camp out in the
Camp out. And what are they doing while they camp out? On whose money?
Theirs.
They're eating Odysseus's food. They're killing Odysseus's animals and roasting them. And they're eating and drinking, they're drinking Odysseus's good wine. They're not paying for it. And they're making the servants of Odysseus' household wait on them. So he sees this stranger and he welcomes him in because he understands this is how hospitality works. And he says, "Oh, you're Odysseus' son?" He, she, it's Athena. "Oh, I can picture Odysseus. You're his son. Wonderful." And young Telemachus cautiously replied, "I'll try, my friend, to give you a frank answer. Mother has always told me I'm his son. It's true. But I am not so certain." All right, now, our modern mind, my modern mind, goes to, oh, was he insinuating that the mailman is his dad? You know, that there's another dad? But I don't think that's in question. If you say to someone, "You're your father's son," do you usually mean that, I'm 100% sure that man is your biological father? Or what does that phrase kind of mean? You're your father's
You're
son.
like the same person.
You're like the same sort of person. I see the same traits in you. And Telemachus and Athena says, "Oh, you're your father's son." And he says, "Well, so they say. But I am not so sure." You know, Odysseus has some pretty big sandals to fill. Odysseus is awesome. Have you ever thought what that would be like? No. I was going to say, if you had amazing parents, you do have amazing parents. But if your parents were world famous at something, and then you were taking up the same profession, we'll say. Your parents, you're a world famous pianist, and you play piano. And of course, everybody's comparing you to the parent, right? That'd be a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure. So he says, "Well, they tell me, but I'm not so sure." So Athena says, here's what you should do. You should call together all the men of the island of Ithaca and lodge a formal complaint. Just tell everybody, "Look, this is what's going into my house and it's not okay. And somebody needs to do something about it." So in book 2, it says, "When young Dawn, with her rose-red fingers shone once more, the true son of Odysseus sprang from bed and dressed. He goes to this meeting, but here's how it ends. He says his piece. But now look, you load my heart with grief. There's nothing I could do." Filled with anger, down on the ground he dashed the speaker's scepter, bursting into tears. This is Telemachus' moment of glory in the big assembly of the elders of Ithaca. "I don't know what to do." And then he just starts crying. Okay. Ask the question I want to ask. What is going to need to happen to Telemachus before he can deal with this situation? What kind of person has a little emotional meltdown and breaks into tears?
Like a child.
A child. Right? I don't know what to do. And of course, he just invites abuse because right after that, the suitors chew him out. Instead of saying, "You're right, Telemachus, we're really sorry. Like, it's not our fault. It's your mom's fault. It's your mom's stupid fault. She's so tricky." She says she has a masterpiece of guile. Oh, gee, who else in the ancient world, and maybe in this poem, is known for being tricky and clever?
Odysseus.
Odysseus, that man of twists and turns. His wife was just like it. By the way, does anybody remember her latest masterpiece of guile? How has she been keeping the suitors at bay? What's she been doing?
Weaving. She said when she finishes her web, she'll marry somebody.
Yes. Oh, guys, here's the deal. My father-in-law is old, and old Laertes, and I'm going to weave him a funeral shroud, because that would be disgraceful not to do that. So as soon as it's done, I'll pick one of you. And so she works all day, and what does she do at night? She undoes it. And they don't notice for 3 years, because maybe they're not the brightest bulbs in the pack. That it never gets done until she's outed by one of the servants. It's Rome's fault. Oh, well, you're blaming us. So nothing gets resolved at this council, because Telemachus is still a kid. He doesn't know how to deal with this. So, next question. What is a mentor, and why do we call them mentors?
It's an experienced and trusted advisor. That was Athena's thing when she disguised herself.
Yes. Athena disguised herself as a friend of the family named Mentor. And she says, here's the deal, Telemachus. I think you should go on a little trip. And what is the purpose of this trip? What does she tell him? This is what we're going to do. This is what we're looking for.
Find out what happened to Odysseus.
News of your dad. Maybe we can visit some people who knew him and find out what happened to your dad. Did they really find out much? No. A rumor that he's being held captive, maybe, on an island somewhere. Unclear where, unclear if he's ever coming home. They really don't get much information. So, I guess the question is, let's do the next question before I blow it up. What information does he get from Nestor? What, I kind of told this already, but Miriam's smiling, so just tell me what you wrote for that one, Miriam.
They talk about Agamemnon's murder and going home.
Yeah. He doesn't get any information from Nestor except, hey, Orestes murdered Aegisthus. And we might say, how is that helpful? Telemachus is a little boy. He doesn't get news of his father, but what does he get? Does he get anything positive out of this trip? And is he different at all when he comes home? Let me read something. While you think that over, make sure I remember when we're done. Oh, you haven't read When He's Home yet. I'm sorry. Yeah, you can't answer that question. All right, keep that in mind. Maybe when you see him again back home, take note. Okay, tell me what he spends his time doing on this trip. What sort of people does he talk to? What does he do with them?
He talks to mostly Odysseus and his friends.
He talks to kings, specifically Nestor, who just is quite the gabber, and very old, and Menelaus. When he shows up at the coast where Nestor lives in Pylos, which is near the shore. So they see them. And it says, as the ship pulled into Pylos, where the people lined the beaches, sacrificing sleek black bulls to Poseidon, god of the sea blue mane who shakes the earth. Poseidon, the one god that doesn't want Odysseus to get home. And the bright-eyed goddess, Athena, urged the prince along. Telemachus, no more shyness. This is not the time. We sailed the seas for this, for news of your father. Where does he lie buried? What fate did he meet? So go right up to Nestor, breaker of horses. We'll make him yield the secrets of his heart. Press him yourself to tell the whole truth. He'll never lie. The man is far too wise. The prince replied, wise in his own way too. How can I greet him, mentor? Even approach the king? I'm hardly adept at subtle conversation. Someone my age might feel shy, what's more, interrogating an older man. How does Telemachus feel about going up there and having a conversation with Nestor?
He's not worthy enough.
I'm not worthy. I'm just a kid. I'm just a kid. I'm nobody. And he's a great man. But like a great man, he invites Telemachus and Mentor in. He gives them a share of the sacrifice. He passes the cup around. It says, all according to ancient custom. I want you to stop and imagine for a minute what Telemachus's upbringing has been like. What examples he has seen. What role models he's had. Do you think he has had good role models to show him how to be a man and a nobleman? I'm pretty sure, certainly in the first 6 books, when we see the suitors there, I'm pretty sure for the rest of the poem, we never see the suitors, we never see a formal sacrifice. We never see the suitors inviting strangers in and practicing hospitality. Telemachus has learned that somewhere. That's what we do. He sees a stranger on the doorstep and he says, oh, come in, stranger. I wouldn't want a stranger lurking on my doorstep, and here, have some food and have some wine and put your feet up, and doesn't even ask them where they're from. He knows that. But I wonder if he's ever been to a community sacrifice before. And we pass, everybody takes a share, and we pass things around. It's all done according to ancient custom. Maybe he's never seen this before. Nestor looks at him and says, I look at you and a sense of wonder takes me. Your way with words, it's just like his. I'd swear no youngster could ever speak like you. So apt, so telling. Then when they go to visit Menelaus, Helen says, to the life, he's like the son of great Odysseus. Surely he's Telemachus, the boy that hero left a babe in arms at home when all you Achaeans fought at Troy. What did he ask himself? What did he have doubts about? We just talked about this about 10 minutes ago. What does he doubt? That I'm like Dad. And what does he hear from everyone who sees him? You're just like your dad. How do you think that makes him feel? What do you think he's getting out of this trip? Confidence. Man, you cannot step up and do what it takes without some confidence. Just think about it. I mean, this is a rhetorical question, as they say. To answer this, think about the people who've shown you what adult life looks like. Presumably your parents are number 1 on that list. But what if you didn't have that? What if you didn't know this is the way it's done? Many of you have older siblings off doing things. Where did they get the confidence to step out? Presumably from parents and from other influences that they've had in their lives. Telemachus has just a bunch of rotters eating all his dad's stuff, and his mom, who spends apparently the greatest part of her time upstairs in her private chamber, weaving the shroud, or apparently crying on her bed a lot. See a lot of, and she flung herself down on the bed. We will see this over and over. Penelope. Who's teaching Orestes how to be who's teaching Telemachus how to be a man? Somebody taught Orestes, look, this is what a man does. And then Apollo came to Orestes, this is told in this story, and said, you need to go avenge your dad. Athena has finally come to Telemachus and said, Telemachus, it's time to grow up. You're 20 years old. It's time to man up. Now, could he get rid of these suitors by himself, do you think? That'd be a stiff fight. There's a lot of them. But if Dad comes home, he needs a right-hand man, not a right-hand little boy. It's time for Telemachus to grow up. So, does he get news of his dad? Not really. Does he come home with something, though? Maybe so. I want to point out one thing that has nothing to do, as far as I can tell, with the plot whatsoever. I just find it amusing. This is when they're at Menelaus's, and they decide to tell stories. Oh, you're just like your dad. I remember once when Odysseus did this. Oh, I remember once when Odysseus did that. And then they all get kind of sad and depressed because they're thinking about the fact that Odysseus is gone, and Agamemnon is dead, and all the people who died at Troy. And it says, well, so much for the tears that caught us just now. Let's think again of supper. Come, rinse our hands. And they rinse their hands, and then it says, then Zeus's daughter Helen thought of something else. First of all, I would like you to imagine just for a minute the situation in Menelaus and Helen's household. The lady who ran away for 10 years with another man. They refused to come home. And then they fought a war for 10 years over her, and all those people died, and then she came home, and we're just living the dream in the palace? I don't know, but maybe not, because listen to this. Then Zeus's daughter Helen thought of something else. Into the mixing bowl from which they drank their wine, she slipped a drug. Heartsease, dissolving anger, magic to make us all forget our pains. No one who drank it deeply mulled in wine could let a tear roll down his cheeks that day, not even if his mother should die, his father die, not even if right before his eyes some enemy brought down a brother or darling son with the sharp bronze blade. Apparently Helen uses drugs. Menelaus uses drugs, but maybe he doesn't know it. I just feel like things are not. I just find this amusing. It's never mentioned again, and it's just there. And those drugs that she picked up in Egypt, she just puts some in their wine so that everybody will be happy. It's kind of weird. Okay. Finally, we have 5 minutes of class left, and we're going to talk about Odysseus. Odysseus, what is he doing when we first see him? He is weeping because he can't go home. Off he set on a headland, weeping there as always, wrenching his heart with sobs and groans and anguish, gazing out over the barren sea through blinding tears. Now, keep in mind, he lives with an immortal goddess who's beautiful, who gives him everything he wants in luxury, and she's offered to make him immortal. And he doesn't want any of that. In fact, after she is ordered by Hermes to send him home, because the gods have decided it's time for Odysseus to go home. She goes to Odysseus and tells him, but she says, well, why would you want to go home? Am I not good enough for you? I'm a goddess, for crying out loud. Am I not better than your wife? Here's Odysseus' answer. Ah, great goddess, worldly Odysseus answered. Don't be angry with me, please. All that you say is true. How well I know. Look at my wise Penelope. She falls far short of you, your beauty, stature. She is mortal after all. And you never age or die. Nevertheless, I long, I pine all my days to travel home and see the dawn of my return. And if a God will wreck me yet again on the wine-dark sea, I can bear that too, with a spirit tempered to endure. Much have I suffered, labored long and hard by now in the waves and wars. Add this to the total, bring the trial on. Much have I suffered. By the way, Odysseus means son of pain. Son of pain. And he talks a lot about pain. He says, Poseidon, when he spots him on his raft, says, oh, he thinks he'll escape his noose of pain. He says, and then Odysseus, when the storm comes and the waves grow, he says, before I can reach my native land, I'll fill my cup of pain. By the way, which god is this that's wrecking his raft? Poseidon. Poseidon. And he ends up on the island place, unclear, of Phaeacia. Phaeacia. Without any clothes, without any companions, without any food, without any money, without anything, and almost dead. First, he needs a nap because he's been struggling to get ashore for some time now. And he buries himself in the bushes because no clothes. And it says, beneath 2 bushy olives sprung from the same root, one olive wild, the other well-bred stock. He gets under an olive tree. Half of it's wild and half of it's cultivated. That's a little odd. This is an odd detail. I want you, as you read books 7 through 12, because we'll meet these Phaeacians a little further, I want you to just look and see if you can see ways in which they're a little wild and a little tame, the Phaeacians. By the way, I will end with smooth-talking Odysseus's words to the princess, Nausicaa, or Nausicaa. Nausicaa is what it says in the back. Here's what he says to her. I am at your mercy, princess. Are you a goddess or a mortal? If one of the gods who rule the skies up there, you're Artemis to the life, the daughter of mighty Zeus. I see her now. Just look at your build, your bearing, your lithe, flowing grace. But if you're one of the mortals living here on earth, 3 times blessed are your father, your queenly mother, 3 times over your brothers too. How often their hearts must warm with joy to see you striding into the dances, such a bloom of beauty. True, but he is the one more blessed than all other men alive, that man who sways you with gifts and leads you home his bride. I've never laid eyes on anyone like you, neither man nor woman. I look at you, and a sense of wonder takes me. Wait, once I saw the like. In Delos, beside Apollo's altar, the young slip of a palm tree springing into the light. There I'd sailed, you see, with my great army in my wake, out on the long campaign that doomed my life to hardship. Oh, that vision, just as I stood there gazing rapt for hours, no shaft like that had ever risen up from the earth. So now I marvel at you, my lady, rapt, enthralled, too struck with awe to grasp you by the knees, though pain has ground me down. He's good. If somebody talks to me like that, I'm helping them. I'm giving them everything they want. All right. Read books 7 through 12. Write the paper. If you have any problems with the paper, email me and we'll go over it together. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.